All right, we are live. Happy 2025. It's upon us. So let me know if you've already crushed your 2025 goals. If you're an achiever, if you've already done it. My goals for 2025, I didn't make one of those. My goals for 2025 are PR, every distance, and all of my main goal, I did make one, is around New Year's of 2026. My main objective is to not say, see you next year. That's it. If I can make it through 2025 without saying see you next year, then I've succeeded in my 2025 goals. That's it. Running related. I guess it should be like not get injured and all those things, but they're not really in my control. So anyway, hope you've already ran a marathon PB in the first week of January. Now, it is worth repeating if you're new and you're just checking it out. The live streams, the reason why I have a separate channel here on the live stream is because live streams mess with the YouTube algorithm, the algo. So I can't put them on the main channel, Midlife Runner. And so it's for the same reason I think Kafuzi ended up doing the Kafuzi Run Club, because the live streams were messing with his channel. So it's easier just to put it over somewhere else. And so since now he only does them twice a week, that's why I thought I would fill the void and create them once to two times a week. Update on that though. Saturdays probably not going to happen. Responsibility just has me by the balls. It doesn't look like I'm going to be able to do the Saturday ones for January, maybe even February. We'll see, but definitely we will be here on Wednesdays. So the purpose of these live streams, they're very centered around shoe talk, and then the idea is that there will be a bunch of people in here talking about shoes, and those shoe questions will get answered by other runners who have run in those shoes. So, but as it stands right now, we just launched the channel and there's not a lot of bodies in here. It's just mostly me talking to myself, which is a ride into itself. So, before we get going, we've got a lot to talk about these four shoes that are in the thumbnail. Or maybe I only put three shoes in the thumbnail. But today we're going to be talking about the Metaspeed Edge Paris 200-mile review. I ran some more in the SL. I have some thoughts. I ran some more in the Zoomfly 6. I also have some thoughts, and I did a first run in the Neo Zen from Mizuno, and then a second run today. So we'll talk about that. Let's see, what else did I write? Oh, okay. On the main channel, also there's a video, the Matt Fox special. They just came out, it's workout video. Please go check that one out if you haven't already. Um, through the holidays, I was able to pump out a lot of videos, and now I'm back to I wonder if I'm ever going to get another video out. I should probably just retire from YouTube. Okay, into it. The first shoe I want to talk about is the Adidas EVO SL. And something that I've noticed about it is it's a very limited shoe, or it's a very like niche shoe. At everyday paces, it feels kind of awkward where you land, because like the Evo, from my understanding, I've never run in the actual Evo, the rocker geometry, the cliff happens very early on. It's a premature rocker. It's a preemie rocker. It's a NICU rocker. I don't know what I'm talking about. Okay, don't unsubscribe, guys. It gets better, I promise. Only it never gets better, but I just say that a lot. At steezy paces, it feels decent. It feels okay. At the highest end of paces, the shoe also feels okay. It is missing some responsiveness because it doesn't have a plate, and also this Light Strike Pro foam from the 3. It isn't like the bounciest super foam there is. So you guys remember the SJD Matrix? I don't know if you'll watch Seth James Damore daily, but he used to do the shoe matrix where he would rank like the best firm shoe, the best soft shoe, the best responsive shoe. But then he had one energy return. And when I was getting into running, I was new. It was very confusing. I was like responsive and energy return. Those are like the same things, right? But he used them to mean the responsiveness is the snappiness of like a plate or like the toe off, and then the energy return is the bounce of a shoe. So with the Light Strike Pro, it's the I believe the version of the three. Frank's in here. Frank Lahulier says it's the Light Strike Pro from the AP4, a lot softer than the version than it is from AP3. I love the AP3 version of Light Strike Pro. So I haven't run in the Adios 9 and I haven't run in the Adios Pro 4. So I also love the Adios Pro 3. I ran it was my long run shoe of the year last year. I did my most long runs in it. This version of Light Strike Pro that's in the 3, that's also in the EVO SL and the Boston 12 and all those, they take a while for some people, for some runners, for myself, to work into where it starts to just um, feel a lot smoother and just feel like butter. So I noticed I just got the Takumi Sen 10 to over 50 miles, and now the ride feels different. It feels a lot better than when I first got it. I was a little disappointed in the Adios Pro 3 when I first got it, but I ended up just loving that shoe. So my hope is to take the EVO SL to run in it as much as possible to get it to that mark. Frank's in here. He says it softens up at 40 to 50 miles. Yeah, that's been my experience. The Boston 12 was the only one that didn't quite soften up at that point, but I'm a lighter runner and it has like the carbon rods and other stiffening agents that I feel like I just couldn't mince. I don't know, word of the lime stream, mince. So um anyway, so it doesn't have the plate. It's not so snappy, but this shoe, the Evo SL, is absolutely incredible at gray zone running. Okay, like for me, that's somewhere between a steezy run and marathon pace. My heart rate is usually in like the mid 150s for me, wherever that is. It's in no man's land. It's in the Bermuda Triangle. It's just off the coast of Florida. This shoe. Um, I don't know what I'm talking about most of the time. So, but I think that's the sweet spot for this shoe, and I really enjoy it. Now, the advantages and the reason why I could see why somebody wants to get a shoe like this is it's plateless, and so there's a group of runners that don't want to train in shoes with plates, and they like those plateless shoes. This would be one of those shoes. I have a hard time trying to place it in my running rotation. Like, what will I use it for? I could use it for steezy running, and then for tempo running, maybe, like I've already done one workout in it. So a lot will depend on how the foam softens and changes and how the ride experience changes after 50 miles. But for right now, like this thing's right there in the low 7-minute range for me. And it felt, I had some pep in my step yesterday. I went right into some gray zone running because it was cold and it was like 6:45, 7-minute paces, and it felt really good. The second point about the shoe I wanted to update was the upper. And I'm not trying to pick apart a great shoe. I do think it's a great shoe, but I did have some lace bite and I couldn't feel my big toe. But I'm not sure that if it was because of the freezing temps, if the shoe's so breathable and the temperatures were so cold, or if I just had the shoe locked down too tight. I do think it's an area that the Audi Zero line, this is an improvement, the upper from say like the Boston 12, in my opinion, but it's still got a little room to grow. So on a positive note, ending with that, just not to be so negative, The price is good, and for like a plateless tempo trainer, um, who don't want plates in their trainers, this would be good. So what I need is a shoe battle between this shoe, Chris Sagasu, the EVO SL versus the Peg Premium. Who do you think? Who do you think he's going to pick? Who do you think? Take a guess. By the way, for those who haven't seen it, I did interview him a few weeks back. That video just came out last Sunday. It's kind of like get to know Chris from Sagasu running type of video. It's not like a full out let's talk shoes the entire time. So probably we'll have him on at some point or ask him to come back so we can just jump into only shoes. So super guy. This one is a bit of his origin story. So Frank's in here. He says Boston 12 has a layer of regular light strike too, though. Oh yeah, you know what? It does. And there was like the last Adios, no, the first Evo S, not Evo SL. What was that one I was thinking that had the SL2? So like, yeah, just the SL. That one had regular light strike too, and that was still firm. I never ran the SL2. I'm sure it'll be like $60 in a week or two. The thing always, Adidas always has those crazy sales on shoes. I'm waiting till it goes down to that sweet spot. You'll never find me complaining about a $60 shoe, guys. I was like, by the way, that Puma Deviate Nitro, the Puma Deviate Nitro 2, yeah, not the Elite, I got for $60 on Fit to Run, and then the heel separated from the midsole, and I had to send it back. So they're gonna reimburse. But I was looking for a new shoe that's kind of peppy, but it was $60, guys. Even if they didn't refund it, I still would have been good. So Frank says, I feel like the people who are against plates and daily trainers are largely being superstitious. A bit stitious. Yeah, I haven't looked back. I started training in plated shoes and last year's racers that were on discount, and I haven't looked back. I haven't been physically injured. I did overtrain, but I can't say that the shoe hurt bad. So Matthias Sventos is in here. Lace bite. Yeah, a little bit. High arch problems. And Andrew Cho's in here saying EVO SL. Yeah, that's what it was. EVO SL. Jen Piazza's in here. Hey, Jen. She said, loved your Sagasu interview. I didn't know his channel, and now I'm a follower. Thanks, Jen. I had a hell of an editor on that one. It just had a nice flow to it. So if you're looking for an editor for any of your work, let me know. I'll refer you out. So, and Jen Piazza, her favorite shoe, by the way, is the ASICS Metaspeed Edge Paris, if I have that correct. And so here's the deal. Not too many people watch the live streams. So I'm just going to go ahead and give you guys a 200-mile review. That's a video that I'm going to shoot that's going to come out next week or the week after. And so, I mean, when that video comes out, you can still watch it if you want. So I can afford some guac on the Chipotle bowl for my kids or myself. Do you want to add guac? I don't know. Hold on. Let me see. Oh, okay. 1,000 views. Yeah. Let's go ahead and throw that in. We'll get the guac today. We'll feel a little crazy. So I would say we got to showcase the shoe first for Jimmy. Just let him know that we're still running on all these shoes. It got 200 miles and 204 miles. The thing is, like, what's the difference between a 100-mile review and a 200-mile review? I feel like that I gotta clarify. First of all, I think there's two things. One, the obvious one is the durability of the outsole, the midsole, the upper. How is it holding up at 200 miles versus the 100-mile? But the thing that I'm most interested in is, for me, I don't just run in a shoe and I'm like, oh, I know the shoe. Like, I could never be a full-time shoe tuber person who runs in 15 to 25 miles and then tells you all about the shoe and then gives it to you in the lineup and what Kafuzi does. I couldn't do that. it takes me a while to kind of figure the shoe out, and the ride does change probably over some time as well. So as I run in the shoe longer, I get to know more and more of the quirks. Because now that we've been in a relationship for a little bit, now I know the way she slurps a grapefruit, or that she gets one less pump of every syrup, no matter what drink she gets from Starbucks. And we could be talking about my wife right now, or the shoe, but I'm probably mostly talking about my wife. But as it pertains to the shoe, I do want to cover some of the quirks that are about the shoe that I've noticed, but I have to lay some pipe first. Okay, there's just going to be a little bit of groundwork. You need to follow me on this one, okay? Because as most of you already know, ASICS had twins last year. They had the Metaspeed Edge Paris, and they had the Metaspeed Sky Paris. And they're not quite identical. The Paris has the high plate position, the Edge has the low plate position. Now you combine that with like the super lightweight and bouncy foam, a mildly stiff plate, and suddenly that plate position matters. So, in fact, I would say like the combination of the foam and the plate favors one of those twins. So, like one of these shoes between the Sky Paris and the Edge Paris is the Arnold, right? And the other one's the Danny DeVito in the twin scenario. So, the midlife runner reference there, old school, right? And the winner, I think, is the Sky Paris as far as the Arnold gene. Not that this is the Danny DeVito, okay? Like that's an exaggeration, but I think like all of the elements that go into those shoes favor a high plate position, because I think the bounce of the shoe conflicts with the roll of the Metaspeed Edge Paris. And so it kind of um, messes with the stride of the shoe for me. So, like back to the SJD matrix on the responsiveness and the energy return. So, for example, the Vaporfly 2 is a very responsive shoe, but then like the Nike Invincible 1 had great energy return because that one was like more about the bounce. So for the Metaspeed Edge, it has the same configuration as the Vaporfly, but a completely different feel. So like the Zoom X of the Vaporfly was soft, and it would kind of catch me and collapse, and it would roll me through and bounce into like a very stiff plate that snapped me forward. And when I land in the Metaspeed Edge, the shoe sort of just bounces me back no matter where I land. So if I land more towards the heel, the bounce slightly interferes with the roll, and it just doesn't feel as smooth or organic. Now, I'm a midfoot striker, and I like the shoe at super, super fast paces. That's two supers. So, and I get the same bounce back because the plate is not as rigid as, say, like the Vaporfly or the original Metaspeed Sky, even, right? So I don't get that aggressive, responsive ride. And don't get me wrong, guys, this is still like the ASICS Metaspeed Edge Paris is still my shoe of the year. Okay, it's lightweight, it's bouncy, it's a gem. I would pay 400 rubles for this shoe. I really would. But my main point is that I have to be very intentional when I run in the shoe and very focused with my landing and mechanics. And the shoe doesn't give me as much aggressiveness or responsiveness as, say, like the Alpha Fly 3, the Pumar Faster Nitro Elite, the Wave Rebellion Pro 2. And that makes a lot of sense because there isn't much shoe in here to begin with. It's so light. There's not a ton of materials in there to give you all of that stuff back. Right. And the second point to that is nuance, is a continuation, is like I took this thing out for some workouts between 184 miles and 204 miles, like in the last 20 miles, one of which was that Matt Fox special that just came out today. Right. And I'll put that video in the description below, and then at the end of this video. Right. And the efforts, like marathon pace efforts, were like 640s. Threshold efforts were 550s, 5K paces, 526 to 530, and the mile paces were like 508 to 512. I have no idea what that is in kilometers. One of my 2025 goals, kilometers. Here we come. I'm going to become fluent. And these paces, I'm not trying to flex on anyone. I can't even run 400 meters at Clayton Young's pace or Connor Mance at their marathon pace. But what I mean is that this shoe delivers at all those paces, still 200 miles into the shoe. And it feels just as good as when I first ran in it. Now, secondly, I'll say the best, like the faster you go in the shoe, the better it feels. The least best fast pace for the shoe is marathon pace, which is why, like, when I did a video on it for my top 5 marathon shoes, it was number 5. But when I did my shoes, like overall shoes for the year, it was my shoe of the year. So that's just because, like, at marathon pace, it feels good and it's lightweight, but it's not as aggressive as those other shoes. So, and at the same time, I have to concentrate. Let them breast guys stay. I just need something to drink. It's another obscure midlife commercial. I gotta read some comments. Frank's in here. He says 100 miles can't really tell you about the durability. Alpha flies look and feel great at 100 miles. I agree. And before I decided to pivot and run in as many shoes as possible and focus on shoes this year, I was like, I'm going to go deeper in shoes. And I still am going to. Like, I think the Skyward X is almost at 200. The Metaspeed Edge Paris is at 200. I want to do more long-term reviews because, especially when you do like first impression videos, sometimes it takes a while for the shoe to really soften, like these Adidas shoes, but a lot of times you get the most bounce, and then later the foam kind of dies out, and then it's not as good at 300 miles as it was in the first 50. But I take everything with a grain of salt. Matthias Ventos is in here. He says, I'm a bit more dismissive of shoe reviews when they say all I've ran is 15 to 25 miles in the shoe, and I know what it is. No, you don't. You don't know what it is. Shoes change. Yeah, same to that same point as well. That's why I take it with a grain of salt. And I will say this, like I know that there's bias. You can't help it. It's human nature. Like Mizuno started sending me shoes last year. I want them to be good. And like I'm like, hey, you guys see me? By the way, guys, I just got my first embargo shoe. I feel like I've arrived now, 2025 officially. Can't talk about it. Oh, I'm like, wait, what? You want to send me some shoes? I would love that. You know what though? I'm terrible at keeping secrets. Like I'm really bad. I think it would be better if I didn't say anything right now, because now I just told you that. So now I want to tell you more, but I can't. So let me just keep reading before I say anything else. Oleg Ko's in here. He says, here just to say thank you for the Chris Sagasu interview. Awesome. Well, thanks for stopping in. Chris Stepanek. And I'm still going to call him Chris Sagasu, even though I know his last name now. He's forever Chris Sagasu. Frank's in here. He says, is there a speed where the edge makes more sense for you? Does it feel better at like mile or 5K paces? Yes. I think, Frank, because the foam is uniformly bouncy kind of where it is, and the plate isn't as stiff, that when I'm at those faster paces and I'm more mid to forefoot and I'm just tapping down, the shoe is so light and I'm still getting some bounce back, that at those, as fast as I can run in the shoe is better, right? It works on that gradient from marathon pace over all the way down. Now I haven't run in the Metaspeed Sky Pair, so I can't say for certain that I know it's the Arnold and this one's the Danny DeVito. That's disrespectful, guys. I'm not trying to call this shit the Danny DeVito, but like I would imagine that bounce feels much better with the height plate position for what it's worth. Jen's in here. She says, Frank, I ran my PR marathon on the ASICS Metaspeed Edge Paris. I think it works great for me. I was coming from the Edge Plus and I used the Magic Speed for tempo days. ASICS through and through, Jen. You need a sponsorship. I don't know anyone at ASICS. I did ask chat though. That's what I call chat GPT. I call him chat. We're like, because you could say chat like, hey chat, but I'm like, when I say hey chat, I just mean GPT. I'm like, I need contacts. Who's a rep for Puma in the US for social media, right? Like, and it's just spitting out emails. Most of them come back, they're not, whatever. You know, chat, he's not the most accurate. Sometimes we got 6 fingers, 7 fingers, sometimes we got 8 fingers. Rarely, I don't think we end up with 5 fingers. So he wasn't able to deliver an ASICS rep for me, General. I'd ask, right? Because I'm like, hey, you got any shoes for a 7,000K subscriber channel? They usually don't. Oleg's in here. 400 rubles is $4 or less depending on the day. Oh, well, then I guess that would be 40,000 rubles. So, but that's just all the more reason to become more fluent in monetary values and probably also the metric system. So, um, Larry Lawrence is in here. He says, hi, I need ideas for a marathon shoe for 220 pounds, 6'5", 67-year-old. Need Yeti or size 14. Alpha Flight 3? That's a good question. I would say the most supportive shoe that I ran in last year was the New Balance SE Elite V4, but those shoes always are short on me. New Balance across the board. So if you're a size 14, that would mean you would need a size 15, and or 14 and a half. I'm not sure if they even make shoes in that size. But I guess some of it depends on your mechanics too. Like the Alpha Fly 3, I didn't I liked for speed, really, 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 really fast stuff, but it wasn't the most comfortable. It was kind of aggressive. So I personally would not go with the Alpha Flight 3. I would see if they make a Deviate Nitro Elite 3. That one seems comfortable across the board. Or maybe the Rocket X2. I don't know if that one's still around, but that one's comfortable top to bottom. But I'm coming at you at 5'6.25" and 144 pounds. So if anyone else is in here coming in tall, dark, and handsome like Larry Lawrence at 6'5", 220, then please share your thoughts. So Ernest I'm not gonna say that right. Capignan says, "What's your fall race for 2025?" So the race plan right now in 2 weeks or a week and a half, I'm going to be running the Austin International Half, the same weekend as the Houston Marathon. And then there's the Boston Marathon in April. I might do a giant maffetone aerobic block over the summer just to periodize the training some bit and then go into training for the inaugural SATX marathon. San Antonio has been doing the Rock and Roll Marathon for ages. I don't remember. I don't even know when, because I just got into running 4 years ago, but it's been around for a while. Well, the Rock and Roll series is pulling the plug, right? We don't get NFL teams here in San Antonio. We're like the flirt bait. Every time they want a new stadium somewhere, like in Oakland or Las Vegas, they're like, oh, LA, we'll just take if you guys don't pay your tax money for a new Coliseum or a new arena stadium, we'll go to San Antonio. We'll be on the market. And everyone in San Antonio is like, yeah, we'll take it. It's like, whatever. There's just a bunch of Cowboy fans here. That's all there is in San Antonio. So anyway, I don't know where where I was going with that. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. So we never get the NFL team here in San Antonio. And then rock and roll was like, we've got bigger cities to go to. Maybe they went to Sydney also, the rock and roll Sydney marathon. But San Antonio decided to keep the marathon and they're going to call it the SATX. And I actually interviewed a guy named Ryan Miller, and he's local, and he's a 2:14 marathoner, and I think he's going to show up and run that first one, so I can forget about winning it. They haven't decided the course yet. I think that they're bringing in some really fast guy. I forgot who that is helping design the course. So hopefully we get something. There's a lot of elevation in the city, so hopefully we get something that's not with too much elevation, but we'll see. So um MCNZ's in here. Good morning. I saw Zoomfly 6 in the title and I clicked. One bad word, I swear will come for you. No, it's good things for the Zoomfly 6. So I guess we'll switch over to the next shoe. So Zoomfly 6, right here we are. I took it for a couple of long runs. This is what I've been doing. I'm like, all right, we got a trainer. I could take this for long runs, do marathon pace in it. The first run I did was a time on feet long run, but I can't help myself. Did a mile marathon pace. I did 800 meters at threshold, and it felt really good. The next week or 2 weeks later, I had another workout. I had a long run and it was 7 miles easy. And then the second 7 miles was starting at marathon pace, working my way down to threshold. And the faster that I was running in the shoe, the better it started to feel. Like it is it is not a long run shoe what I thought it was going to be. Like you can take it for long runs. I suppose you can do daily training in it, but one, I have a shoe problem and I have way too many other shoes. So I definitely wouldn't, I'm not going to do that. I mean, but you could, but really like this is like the threshold day shoe. Like when I got into running, I was like, I'm legit going to have 3 shoes or 5 shoes eventually. And it's like, I'm going to have one for my 5K, 10K speed work, which is like taken by the Takumi Senten, for example, right now. Then I'm going to have my tempo day shoe, my threshold day shoe. And anytime I have threshold workouts and I'm going 8 out of 10, that was the endorphin speed. And then it was the endorphin speed. And then after that, it was the endorphin speed because I bought like 3 of those pairs. That shoe is just like magical to me. And that's what I had. And then I had a daily trainer. Then I had the race day shoe. And then I was like, I'm going to have like a recovery shoe or like a daily trainer that could also do recovery. But the Zoomfly 6, I thought was going to be one of those like long run shoes category, but really it's just straight up a threshold shoe. And you know who did a good review of it? And actually, not surprisingly, Nike Yoda. Okay, like Chris Sagasu really nailed the shoe. He does like not a shoe matrix, but I love his graphics. He kind of puts where every shoe is great at. And he compared this shoe to the Super Blast 2. And for the Super Blast 2, he was saying that's the long run shoe. That's the shoe that you're going to be able to do like marathon pace inside of a long run. That one would be better for that. But the Zoomfly 6 would be like it's straight up tempo shoe. And I was like, okay, that was before I did the long run. I think I saw that. And I was like, agree to disagree, Chris. Oh, I'm so smart. I know so much. I've run in the shoe one time, and then I talk like that in my head, and then I ran in the shoe, and I was like, no, holy shit, he was right, 100%. So like anytime I have a tempo shoe, now I have a problem because now I have 2 shoes that do the same thing. I get this Adidas EVO SL, which is a shoe that I want to do tempo work in. And then I've also got this. So I guess the question is like, I'm going to do plate or no plate. Assuming I run threshold every week, 1 week I would do EVO SL. The next week I would do Zoomfly 6. So, um, yeah, that's that's my thoughts. Let's see if I wrote anything else. No bad words. No bad words on the Zoom Fly 6. I still really like the shoe. The Super Blast Killer. No, it's not. You could actually have both of those shoes and it would still make a lot of sense. Okay. So let's see who's in here. Oleg Ko says, real question. I remember you saying you used the Adidas Takumi Sen 10 or Sen for training. So you feel like they lose the oomph after 200 miles, or is it just me? Well, here's the problem. The Takumi Sen 8, I got a pair at like 150, and then they were on sale, and then I bought another pair, and then I got those to about 140, 150, and then Takumi Sen 10 went on sale. So the first pair I just retired. The second pair I still have for reference. So I have one pair of Takumi Sen 8s. The Takumi Sen 10s are now after 50 miles, and those started to soften and feel just great. There's a connectedness to the 10 with the full length carbon rods that are just makes it also ironically good for tempo. And I was considering running the half marathon in it in Austin, but I just got those embargo shoes. So like I kind of want to test those out. But we'll see. So I will get back to you because I definitely want to take those shoes over 200 miles. And same thing with the endorphin speed. It was so good. I just kept running in it. Like Takumi Sen, I've tried other 5K, 10K racers, and I just always come back to the Takumi Sen 10 or 8, whatever. I always reach for it. It's something that I prefer or I want to do. So, and then I don't run once a week. So it takes a while to like work through a shoe all the way for a 5K or 10K shoe. But I've been doing the Takumi Sen. That's the go-to for 2 or 3 years. And then I missed the sale on the 9. I don't know what I was doing, but slacking apparently. But those sales, they just happen. Like I used to do fantasy football. And one of the things as I got more responsibilities and kids and stuff, it was like my players would get injured. Someone would do really well. They pick them up on the waiver wire. And then I get on the next day and everybody's already taken. I'm like, I'm too late to the game. Sometimes these sales happen. And I'm like, what? The Takumi Sen 9's on sale? There's only size 6 in 14 left available. And everybody's running in them. So Frank's in here. He says the El Paso Marathon is like that too, where I might be able to win it on the random year when no one fast decides to run it. Yeah, Frank, I'm telling you, there's like legit 4 to 5 really like fast guys here, like sub elite, like 220s. That guy Ryan Miller's easily the fastest guy because he like went to the Olympic time trials in 2016 and 2020. And then he grew up in Bernie outside of town. There's some sub 240 guys. There's a few of those in town. So it's like if they don't show up, could happen one day, but I have a ways to go on my fitness journey. Matt Byers in here. He says, finally made it on. We'll have to catch up on the first part of the stream later. Yeah, you just made it in time for the Takumi Sen talks. Matt's trying to talk me into running that half marathon in the Takumi Sen. Big nuts. Man, I'm thinking about doing it. Oh, we'll see. We'll see. I'm going to get a test run in the embargo shoes and then maybe we'll see. To answer your question, Oleg, Matt Byer put 300 plus on his shoe on the Takumi Sens. So you can ask him if he lost the oomph. I don't think it did. Frank's in here also. He says that the Takumi Sen 8s were great for the full 325 miles when they would start feeling less proactive rather than bouncy. Barton Performance Matrix. Yeah. JT says Nike Zoda. I don't know what that is. Man, you think I know some shoes. Nike Yoda, maybe. Yeah. So JT, go check out Chris, the video that came out on Sunday for the Midlife Runner channel. That's Chris Stepanek, Sagasu Running. I'll put on the thumbnail, Nike Yoda. Wise he is. Alex Dominguez is in here. He says, so glad to join this week's live stream. Recently got the Hoka Cielo X1 for my upcoming race. I was considering the Zoom Fly 6, but now, especially after hearing this live stream, I'm glad I went with the Hoka. Yeah, it's a shoe that I really want to try out. In Hoka and On, I have resentments to. I realize just doing some inventories. You charge so much and they never go on sale. I really want to try the On Cloud Boom Strike LS or whatever the one is that's Alpha Flight esque that was on Andrea's Doctors of Running list. I was like, man, but I think it's even more expensive than the Alpha Flight. It's like 285, it's like $300. Cielo X1 is 275. So really, come on, guys, tax $300. That's like 6 million rubles. I don't have that kind of rubles, so um I am going to try to make it to the running event in December, and then hopefully, as I focus more on shoes for the channel, we'll make some connections, and maybe someone from Hoka or On will send me shoes. I better quit shitting on, or they're not going to send me shoes probably. But Hoka, I do love the Rocket X2, and I'm interested to try a lot of the shoes to see where they're going. The Mach X3 is definitely a must on to try out for me this year because it sounds like a great time. MCNC's in here. He's like, I've never done a slow long run in the Zoom Fly 6, but I've taken on a bunch of sub 125 half marathon distance. Yeah, well, if you're that's fast. So like if you're going fast in that shoe, it feels really good. Like tempo. I think it would be a great half marathon shoe option because it's feels so good at that half marathon to threshold paces. It's really funny because I like when I'm trying to decipher some of the training that gets prescribed to me on Training Peaks from Coach Fox. I have to do follow-up questions and I'm like, wait a second, hold on. You want me to run this and you said half marathon effort, but your half marathon is like 65 minutes. So like you're talking like threshold then, right? Because my half marathon is 80 to 85 minutes and I cannot run threshold for 80 to 85 minutes. It's not a pace you can sustain for that long. So I have questions. And he's always available and he answers those questions spot like, right away. So um MCNZ says, I feel like at this point Adidas needs to rename it the Kafuzi Sen. That would be nice. I've never heard that. I never even thought of it. My brain is just hasn't got there. But my toddler was now 5. He's a certified little boy, cute as shit. His name's Major. He would growing up, he's a talker, he's a yapper. Guess where he gets it from? You're right, his mother. He says, I would be talking to my wife about, oh yeah, we're gonna go over to the Kafuzi Run Club event for Houston, or Kafuzi this or whatever. And he's listening. And so anytime he tried to say confusing, he said, it's very confusing. Like when he didn't understand something. And I was like, oh, he's never been afraid to just put it out there. Stevie76 is in here. What's up, man? Is it gonna snow in SA? It's bang on 42F. Feels like 32. I think it's gonna feel like it's gonna snow, but I don't think it's gonna snow. It looks like it's definitely gonna rain tomorrow and the next day, but temps are 38, 36. So for all my Houston Marathon peeps or my Austin International half, now we got the forecast up. We can see through to Friday. So it's 30s all this week, low 40s all the way till Friday. Friday's 45. So what? Marathon Sunday. I mean, I don't think it's gonna get a warm front, but I think temps should be just regular standard very nice. I don't think it's going to be like perfect freezing temps. Like last year was wild in Houston because when we started, it was like 40 going up to 45 and then like a cold front blew in and put it back down to 40. So, as a consequence, there was some wind. Some people were complaining about the wind, but when the wind feels like 40 degrees, You couldn't ask for better weather. I've gotten some bounces with the weather. I did the Woodlands Marathon, and you never get good weather there on the follow-up. But I will say Marine Corps Marathon, which I overtrained for, also had great weather. So I've been getting some good weather on these marathons later. So Frank's in here says it's snowing in Las Cruces. Awesome. We got New Mexico in the house. Is that New Mexico? I imagine it is. You mentioned El Paso earlier. So Ernest is in here. He says, are you interested in doing ultra marathons, 50 milers, 100 milers? Seems like a midlife runner distance. I will say two things. I'll say three things. One, I don't know how much time I have left. In theory, half. If the channel name serves accurate. And I never ran before. So my ship sailed and I have one mission: get as fast as I can and run as much as I can, as fast as I can. That's what's fun for me. When I started running COVID, it just took me back and I was like, oh yeah, man, I used to just get on skateboards and toboggan down some like steep driveways or rollerblades or just run. And I used to like just feel the wind and just was like, I like running fast. And then Flores Gearman showed up with his run easy all the time. And I resisted that. I resisted the Maffetone method for so long because all I wanted to do was run fast. Now, in theory, you're running at a good clip for these 50 miles or 100 miles, or enough to where you feel like you're toast at the end. This number two out of the three is that I have zero interest in becoming a triathlete. My wife's been trying to get a Peloton for a while, and we're budget buyers, so that's not part of it. But as in the next video that comes out, you'll see we did get like a Yeso, like one of these bikes. It's like cost-effective Peloton. But I got to be careful. I could do it 1 day a week, and it's probably going to be on my cross-training day because I do not want to turn into a triathlete. What if I find out I've got good quads and I'm a great cyclist? It's bad news. I don't want to even know. I don't know how much time I have left. Certainly not enough to do triathlon. Way too many kids for that too. Time commitments. The third thing is that I do not want to do ultra marathons. It's just, again, I mean, it's a little bit more of a time commitment. But I remember listening to Courtney DeWalter on the Rich Roll podcast, and she was just talking about like all her hallucinations and now her friends and how she talks to them as she's like running for 48 continuous hours or whatever. And none of what she said sounded like remotely a good time. It's like hallucinations was like a 6-month period my freshman year of college on purpose. And we're done. We're retired from hallucinations. We don't do that anymore. Okay. Like, so I don't want to get to that mental endurance toughness part. I still want it to be largely physical, which so I don't that's where I stand right now. Right. Like if I think what happens for some people is they run a marathon PR and they're like, I don't, that was 5 years ago. I'm never running another PR for the marathon or a half, or like I'm slowing down. Let me just run longer and just start going 50 milers, 100 milers. I won't rule it out, but like 98% chance that this midlifer is never gonna javelina or Western States or anything, the Bandera, whatever. I don't even know what the hell those are called. Andrew Escobedo's in here. What's up, Andrew? This is a man who knows some snow. He says, have you ever seen the Vaporfly 4 photos from this week? They look like the Zoomfly 6, so I'm excited to pick up the Vaporfly floor. I almost got the AlphaFly 3, but my dislike of the mechanical feel of the AlphaFly 1 kept me away. Well, I will say that that mechanical feel of the AlphaFly 1 is gone in the 3, and the AlphaFly 3 does feel more like a Vaporfly. And in fact, I would say the Zoomfly 6 feels underfoot a lot like the AlphaFly 3, almost identical, except the AlphaFly 3 has a little bit softer the foam in the heel that collapses, and then the pods are a little more aggressive than the plate. But if you like the way that the Zoom Fly 6 feels, it's like Alpha Fly 3-ish. So, but then that makes me interested on the Vaporfly 4. And for all of that, I'm just gonna check out Nike Yoda and have him tell me what's up with all of these shoes and the differences. So, um, Stevie76 says, "What does the fox say?" Oh, Oleg goes here. Don't turn into a triathlete. Yeah, I don't think I would be allowed. Like so, love is not controlling. You love what is. My wife loves all of this, and I love all of my wife. But if I said, "Hey, I'm going to be out Saturday morning for about 7 hours, but I'll take the afternoon shift with the kids." Also on Sunday, I'm gonna be gone for 7 hours, but I'll be back for the after. Like that's a card. You can play that card like so like, hey, because she goes with me on these trips. Like, okay, cool. We'll see Austin. She plans. We go do stuff. Boston. She's coming, right? We'll go do stuff. See Boston. I don't think it would be allowed. It would not be permissible to become a triathlete in the house. I can't see also putting in 20 plus hours because time is a finite resource and being able to show up in a responsible way for the children. It's like, well, we don't call that neglect, but yeah, it's just they're school age. It'd be different if they're a little bit older, but they're definitely school age. Frank is in here. He says the stat for triathlon that stopped me was the average Kona participant spends 40 hours a week training. That's it. I talked to a guy in the airport and he had a hat with a bunch of holes in it. So I was like, this guy's an endurance athlete because his head needs to breathe, and started talking to him. Imagine me yapping, talking to him. And he told me, and he had two little ones. He's like, oh, my wife's a saint. She watches when I'm out there on the roads all day, Saturday morning, all day Sunday morning. I'm like, bro, okay, like that. I mean, his were like 5 and under. That's when you need the most support. 5 and under is an exponential thing. So you get like 3 of them under 5, you really got like 9 kids. You got that. It's cubed. You don't even like SJD. I didn't even know how he did it for as long as he did. He has 6. It means he had like 30 kids at once and still posting daily vlogs. It's just too much. Like I don't, once you get after 5, then they just goes down to like 1-to-1 ratio where you just like, I got 3 kids, and then you actually really have 3 kids. The other ones kind of peel off or whatever. So Stevie76 is in here. He says 3 kids equals zone defense. That's it. You go into prevent and then you give up a lot of points. And sometimes you lose the game. A lot of times you lose the game. When the game's bedtime, you lose every time. It's it. I did hear it was like some meme. I just never forget like the good ones. And this one said bedtime is the number 1 leading cause of dehydration. And I found that to be true. He gets the water bottle ready to go. Like, oh, well, here you go. That's when my son wants snacks. So it's like, that's when I'm like, oh, all I've got is this vitamin rich fruit right here for you right before bed. Anyway, Oleg's in here says, I'm intrigued by the idea of ultras. Will attempt to try my first 50K this year. Well, good luck, Oleg. You got to let me know how that goes. 50K is like the dip the toes in, right? That one's like 31 miles ish, right? It's just a little bit further. So I think that's a good starting kit. Andrew Chosen here says, I feel the same way about ultra marathons and triathlons. Once I reach my time goal for marathons, I'll probably mostly do the half. Yeah, the half is just like the most fun. And I don't know why I got away from it. I fell in the trap. It's a trap. I fell into the new guy trap of just like marathon after marathon after marathon. And I was like, I'm not going to do. There was a point where Kofuzi and Believe in the Run were running like 8 marathons a year or whatever. And I was like, I don't want everyone to do that. And then I did it. I started doing that. I just like marathon block after that. So now I'm gonna run this half. And the half, that sounds like a good time. So we'll see how it goes in a week and a half here. Andrew's in here. Escobedo, he says, I guess I'll have to try both in store then. Thanks for the info on the Alpha Fly 3. Also, Minnesota has no snow. It melted over Christmas and then we dropped to 0 and sunny. Oh man, that's got to be divine. We'll see how fast those easy paces go when it looks like that. All right, well, we only have a few minutes, so we'll talk about the last shoe. I don't know if I put this one into the thumbnail because Mizuno's out at it again with the Neo Zen. And on the video that I posted for like dud or stud for 2025, I think I listed this one as a dud. Like I thought it would be a dud because it looked like a plateless Neo Vista. And I was wrong about that. It's not what I thought it would be as a dud, but it's a lot of things. There's a lot that's there. I have too many thoughts. So I almost don't want, I did a 5-on-5, but I did like a second run in it today. And I feel like I'm going to have to run in it a lot more to get to know the shoe. I can't just do like the first date and then like, hey, this shoe is these things because it's conflicting. It's soft and bouncy. I think 2025 is the year where we're hitting this soft and bouncy thing where it's like, well, which one is it? Is it soft or is it bouncy? Am I going to collapse or am I going to get the rebound? Am I going to get the energy return? Because those are two different things. And so they were like the description for the Adidas Adios 9 was like soft and bouncy. I'm like, it's not like a racing flat. It's kind of weird. But I know that the critical foam for like Puma Liberate Nitro 1 was like somewhat soft, but a bouncy shoe, but it was so minimal. I can see that happening like a minimal shoe because it's bouncy, but it's just not enough of it. So it kind of feels soft. But with this Neo Vista or the Neo Zen, there's just like 40 plus millimeters of stack there. I think it's listed as 40, but it might come in higher. And it's really light. And one of the problems I had with the Neo Vista is that it's not very stable. And I had the same problem with the New Balance SC Trainer V2. Those shoes are very similar. They have this very similar rocker. They have a very similar, they're both kind of bouncy. But the New Balance shoe was so unstable. I would notice like my shins or like the peroneal tendonitis, my knee sometimes if I walked around in the shoe or just I took it out for an easy run, my foot would collapse laterally ever so slightly enough to be noticeable. And so like my first run after the Zen, I noticed the same thing. Like the foam is light and there's so much of it, it kind of collapses. So my hips were feeling it a little bit. Granted, I'm running hill sprints just about as hard as I can. I'm doing a lot of speed work. So some of it could be coming from that. But I would say that this is this very similar to the Neo Vista, by the way. Frank's in here and he says it doesn't have the heel cutout thing. Yeah, it's a little bit more supportive than the Neo Vista. It does not collapse as much. There's more foam in the forefoot. If you are a midfoot to forefoot striker, it feels better up front. So at the beginning with the Neo Vista, it was super great for like 120 miles. There's a lot of really great energy return, but then eventually the foam kind of deadened out and then it became like a everyday kind of shoe. But also there was so much sink in before the energy return came back that it wasn't a shoe that I was just reaching for because it had a natural kind of balanced return. Whereas the Neo Zen has that. And one of the things about the Neo Zen is also it's not as aggressive. So it's a shoe that you can just run regular paces. It's not encouraging you to pick up the pace all the time. Because my main question with this shoe is I T-chart my daily trainers into, like, workhorse category shoes or, like, fun shoes. It's a shoe that, like, my on-cloud clips, I'm just gonna run every day and it rolls me through. It's nice, it's supportive, okay, no frills, whatever, it's a shoe. Then there's shoes like the Mach 6, the Rebel V3, like the Nova Blast original, like, they're fun and they encourage me to pick up the pace. So I was curious with the Neo Zen, it's soft and it's bouncy. So is it soft and slow? Is it bouncy and fun? In today's run, I started picking up the pace naturally. So I think it's going to fall into more of the fun category, but it is a shoe that I don't want to waste my breath with a first impression review. I probably still will because I'm a yapper. I'm going to go on record. Even when I'm wrong later, I'll put my foot in my mouth. But I want to see where it is. But I think it's a shoe that's definitely going to evolve over time because it has a lot of components that all go together. And ASICS up the game with the Metaspeed Edge Paris. They put a lot of really bouncy foam in there and kept it light somehow. And so now all the other shoe companies are doing similar things. They're competing with one another and upping the game with their foam. So, all right, let's see. Here's in the comments, and then we got a split. Frank's in here. He says, "I did ultras first, and then I moved down to marathons." Oh, that's cool. Did you ever do any speed blocks, speed development? All right. All right. And then it looks like you guys are all talking to each other. All right. Well, it looks like this Wednesday thing was a little bit better than the Saturdays have been going. So tell your friends. I'll probably start posting a lot of the same content that I talked about on here. I'll make some shorts just to kind of get the channel out there, and so we can get some more friends who want to talk just about shoes in here. And but I'll release those for this channel. Again, you can ignore them or you can watch them, and we'll get the guac for the Chipotle. I appreciate you guys stopping by, and we will see you not on Saturday because we're not doing Saturdays for a while. I'll see you next Wednesday. Thanks for stopping in, guys.